Hi, Teen Esteem people, friends, random people, my friends, my mom, my dad. Just kidding, my mom and dad probably aren't watching. How's everyone doing today? Day a million. Every day is different, right? Ups and downs. So one of the things that happens as we put COVID-19 and shelter in place on top of our regular lives is regular lives. And some of the issues that we had to deal with before we were sheltering in place are still there. And so I want to address vaping today. I talked about it a little bit on Wednesday night on CPC's Facebook Live, if you caught that, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth to give you some tips and some encouragement and some education about vaping, which, as you know, is a huge epidemic among our young people. And we hear about that from our own kids, and then we hear about it from students when we go visit in the classroom. And we ask the students, primarily the freshman health classes, how many students would you say vape on your campus, have at least tried it? Now, low number we get is 40%. Usually it's like 80, 90%. So we know there's a high percentage of students who have at least tried vaping. Dogs as well are getting into vaping these days. Okay, I'm gonna throw this ball and hopefully that'll be the end of this. Probably not. So we have a vaping video that I did on our teenesteem.org website. So go there to get the basic 101s. I'm not gonna go in depth of everything about vaping and what's in it, but it's inhaling and exhaling fine aerosol particles, and it's an electronic cigarette, all different shapes and sizes. I am gonna have to just keep throwing the ball during this, so sorry, this is what we do. This is life in the real world. So go look at that video if you want an overview of what vaping is, but let's talk about how do we prevent it. Education is key, so educating yourself as a parent and then also your kids. And the more we talk to students by freshman year of high school, they know a lot about vaping, they've been exposed to it, they maybe haven't vaped themselves, but they say it's kind of too late to start trying to educate them about what it is. So at Teen Esteem, we're starting to do assemblies that incorporate vaping to students as young as 4th and 5th grade. And they need to hear from a young age what it is at an age appropriate level. They don't need every single detail, but to know what to look out for, why it's unhealthy, and kind of start drilling that in them. A close family friend has a son who recently got out of rehab, and he's only 19, and he tells his story to me, and I think it's really helpful for us to hear that his freshman year of high school, after his sports practice, someone offered him a hit of a Juul, and a Juul looks like a USB cartridge, really popular among the young people, and it has a lot of nicotine in it. So he takes a hit of a Juul, and as I'm talking to him and asking him questions about it, he says, let me say it like this: that hit of the Juul was like opening the first gate for me. And so started vaping, started juuling, eventually started vaping marijuana, smoking marijuana. I'm so sorry about the dog, but I mean, if I go in the house, there's distractions. If I go out front, so doing the best we can, right? Working from home in the backyard. So that started for him, his journey down and farther down that road of eventually needing to go to rehab because drugs took over his life. And while juuling wasn't what he was in for, it's what got him started. So it's really important. And what he says is educate him younger, teach him younger before it's too late, before they've already started, about vaping and what are some of the harmful effects of that. So educate yourself and have conversations with your kids even as young as 4th and 5th grade on an age appropriate level about what vaping is, the dangers, the harms, because we're learning a lot more and more. I mean, when we first started teaching this in classes, hi Jordis. My 5th grader's now watching me, so I feel really uncomfortable, but that's all right. You can sit and hear about vaping education. I'll give you a little bit more. And I was preparing an assembly for 4th and 5th graders, and we were putting in a video, and I actually showed it to Jordis before, and she said, "Mom, don't ruin my life. I'm so innocent," or something like that. But I had to say, I'm so sorry, honey. I wish we didn't have to talk about this stuff, but especially as she's going into middle school next year, she needs to know what it is. And so educate yourself, educate your kids. So that's kind of a prevention method. So what do you look for if you suspect you are you have a kid who might be vaping. So now that you're sheltering in place and you're spending a lot more time with your kid, you might be noticing some signs that maybe they have an addiction. If they have vaped casually when they were in school, they're probably not out looking for it and finding ways to sneak and get vaping material. So it is possible to do it, yes, without becoming addicted, but I'd say the percentages, once you start doing it, it is so addicting that it's hard to stop. And so you might find yourself at home with a kid and you're wrestling with this and trying to figure out what to do. You can look on the internet, you can Google what are signs of someone who's been vaping, but more accurately, when I talked to this teenager, what he said was stay with your kid for 2 hours, and if they have to go to the bathroom every hour or two, then that's a sign. Because if you are addicted, you can't go really more than an hour or two without at least getting a hit. And you can do it so quickly, so easily, so sneakily, just when a parent looks away. So be on the lookout for that. And then really, I know it's not ideal and people don't love this, teenagers especially don't love this, but you gotta check their stuff. Like search their room, search their backpack that they probably haven't unloaded yet. Look in their car. You'll probably find signs. Empty cartridges. Puff bars are really popular right now. They're disposable, one-time use. They come preloaded, full of nicotine. I mean, look in for signs of that in trash cans, which would be a sign that they're really struggling. And that kind of brings me to my next point, is you want to look at the why. When you find out you have a child or a teen who's been vaping, you want to approach them firmly, because it is an issue. You want to nip in the bud. It is a problem that could get a lot worse. So you do want to address it and not just think, oh, it's no big deal, all the teenagers are doing it, because it is a big deal. But approach it firmly, but with some compassion and some grace. You might have a student who is really struggling, and it may have become their coping mechanism. Obviously, we're all struggling to some degree right now with the shelter in place and all these losses and cancellations. And frankly, our kids are looking to us. How are we coping? Are we going to a substance? Are we having to have a drink to calm us down? Are we announcing that every time, oh, mama needs a drink? They're watching that, and that could really be problematic if they're learning that coping mechanism from you. So I'm not saying don't ever have a drink of alcohol, and maybe that does help you unwind, and I understand that, but be really careful what you're modeling for your kids. So back to, you suspect your child is vaping, you approach them, try and get to the why. It might just be, oh, I just started it for no reason, for fun, experimenting, peer pressure, but then I became addicted. Or I just tried it for experimentation, and then things got rough with the pressure from school or family circumstances, and now I'm using it for a coping mechanism, and I can't relax and I can't get through the day without it. In that case, there are some resources out there, even as you shelter in place, for nicotine addiction. I would say start with your healthcare provider, get in touch with them, ask them for direction. There's also some great online resources. We'll post it in our comments too, but smokefree.gov, I believe. I could be getting the last parts wrong, so check our comments here on this Facebook feed. Smokefree.gov, no buts, BUTTS.org, and truthinitiative.org. They have some information, some guidance, and some resources to how to help you stop vaping. Because again, you might think it's just vaping, but as my friend's kid said, that's a gate that opens into other things, and we need to teach our kids healthy coping mechanisms that don't involve substance, because nicotine, we still don't even fully understand the effects on the teenage brain, but we know it's not good. And when we talk about the coronavirus, I've been reading lately, obviously they can't have studies yet, but when you're ingesting fine aerosol particles and they're getting lodged into your lungs, of course you're going to be more vulnerable to viruses and disease and have a harder time fighting them. Google Walter McKnight. He is a student. He was a college athlete, and he's in Florida. He starts just juuling, not vaping marijuana, not getting black market products, because I know with these deaths and lung illnesses reported, it came out that a lot of them had vitamin E acetate from marijuana, and a lot of them were illegal black market. But we're talking Juul, and he got addicted and ended up hospitalized for 5 months, totally has ruined his body. I went and looked on his GoFundMe page and got updates, and he is still struggling to come back. But he was a healthy college athlete that contracted a virus that normal people would just fight off. And his body couldn't fight it off because of the moisture that was in his lungs from juuling. And so it really, really messed him up physically. So I do have that concern for students who are vaping during this time of coronavirus. If they catch the virus, what is that going to look like? So that's just another reason to be concerned about that. So hopefully this is helpful. It's a huge topic. I could go on forever, but we don't have forever. And I know you got to go get to throwing the ball for your dog. My dog stopped though, so that's cool. I have 2 dogs next to me. I'll show you. They're just, hi dogs. So go check out teenesteem.org. Watch the vaping video to get a little overview of what vaping is. Educate yourself and your kids. Connect with them on it. Have conversations with them about it. And then be on the lookout. If you have suspicions, don't look the other way. Talk to your kid in a firm and loving way, and then take steps to get the help that they need. And I think that's it for today. Remember, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, we're here for you at 1 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Bye.